The Carolina Hurricanes are back once again as they host the Tampa Bay Lightning. And as they say, there is no lightning without the storm.
Your Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the Everydayer for making this your first listen of the day. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about, sure, Carolina Hurricanes. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I'm the credentialed Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hockey Writers. I do some AHL coverage over at the Caller Times, even doing some baseball at Covering the Corner, covering the Cleveland Guardians. I'm also the co-host of the Surgecast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. Got a good show for you on this Tuesday edition as we get to preview the Hurricanes hosting the Tampa Bay Lightning on Tuesday night to continue their current homestand. What are the keys to the game? Who are the players to watch? And then at the end of the show, we get to hear from Rod Brind'Amour post-practice on Monday. So, like I said, the Hurricanes are hosting to the Tampa Bay Lightning for the last time this season. Previous meetings, Tampa Bay has won both of them. Tampa won 4-1 back on October 11th for the season and home opener. And then on January 7th for the makeup game, Tampa won 3-2 back in Tampa. Now this is the last time they face each other on March 11th, and this game will be exclusively on ESPN Plus, Hulu, and also Disney Plus as well. It is a 7:30 p.m. kickoff, not 7 o'clock like usual to start the game. Tampa Bay 37-22-4, and your Carolina Hurricanes are 38-22-4. So pretty much even across the board in terms of how these teams are playing. Over the last 10, however, Tampa is 8-2-0. Their last game, they lost to the Boston Bruins. But before that, they won back-to-back over Columbus and Buffalo. Lost to Florida, and then their first 5, they had a 6-game winning streak going back to Detroit, Montreal, Seattle, Edmonton, Calgary, and Washington. But the good thing about your Carolina Hurricanes, while they are 6-4, they are winners of 5 of their last 6. Beating Buffalo, unfortunately lost to Edmonton, in a game where it was a lot closer than the score predicted. They did lose 3-1, but did beat Calgary in overtime, beat Detroit, beat Boston right before the trade deadline, and then they took on the Winnipeg Jets, the number 1 team in the NHL, and they beat them pretty handily. While it was 4-2, should have really been 4-1, but overall, pretty much a really great game for the Hurricanes against the points leading number 1 team in the NHL. Now, looking over the last 5 games, who are the players to watch? Who are leading in points, goals, and assists? Well, in terms of points, Jake Guentzel with 7, leading the Tampa Bay Lightning, Carolina 4th, but Guentzel does have 5 goals, and Sebastian Aho has 3 of his 4. So right now it's Aho and Guentzel kind of leading the way in the goals and the point totals. And assists, no surprise here. Nikita Kucherov leading the Bolts with 5, but Shane Gostisbehere has been playing really well recently, does have 3. So the other thing from Shane Gostisbehere kind of went into a small little skid. Wasn't really getting the points that you thought he was going to have, but of course that was coming right back from injury. But over the last few games, he's been playing very, very well, and even in the game against Winnipeg, goes up to the second defensive pair because of the fact that Dmitry Orlov is out. He pairs up with Jalen Chatfield and Ghost and Chatty. I think they did pretty well together, so maybe we get a preview of that. That's going to be what we might see in 25-26, because with Orlov's contract coming up the Bucks, I don't really see him coming back. So maybe we get Ghost and Chatfield next season. Who really knows? The defensive pairings will definitely be interesting, but of course, that's a off-season 25 episode to go look forward to. But they get a small preview of that, so maybe that's what we're going to be kind of seeing as we get closer to next season. But overall, Ghost and Chatfield, honestly, have been playing really well together. Now, looking at the goaltending situation, who can we be seeing in this matchup? Well, Andrei Vasilevsky, 30, 17, and 3 with the 225 goals against, a 921 save percentage, and 4 shutouts. Goes to show probably why Tampa Bay is 37, 22, and 4 is because Andrei Vasilevsky is doing Andrei Vasilevsky things and does have 30 wins on the season. Jonas Johansson, 7-5-1 with a 315 goals against and an 896 save percentage and a shutout. So if depending on who Tampa had in the last game, regardless of that, I still think it's probably going to be Andrei Vasilevsky because you're going, the two best teams in the Eastern Conference, basically a similar record with Carolina playing one more game. Don't be surprised if it's Andrei Vasilevsky in this one, which I definitely see could be in the case. Now for the Hurricanes, Pierre Kachekov, 23, 11, and 3 with a 247 goals against, a 904 save percentage, and a shutout. Of course, he was in that game against the Boston Bruins. And Frederick Anderson, 8-5-0 with a 217, 911 save percentage, shutout. Obviously was in that one against the one-pick Jets. If we're sticking with what the Hurricanes have been doing the on-off, like they're doing the switch up between the goalies like they did last season, then that means it's probably going to be Pierre Kachekov's turn in the net for the Hurricanes. And the thing is, he's already tied for his win total from last season. So hopefully this is a win, not if, for the game against Tampa. When Pierre Kachekov wins his next game, which we're hoping it's tonight against Tampa, because that'll be definitely great to beat a fellow countryman in Vasilevsky on the other side. Pierre Kachekov would set a new career high in wins with 24 because he had 23 last year, already tied it, and now he has a potential to go for 24. So hopefully that'll be the case if you're looking at how you're kind of looking at this game to be like, hey, that would be great if you see Pierre come in, get the win, beat Andrei Vasilevsky and the Bolts, and now there you go. There's your 24th win of the season. You're on for 5 in a row, and you're really setting yourself up for a good run because that'll give you 39 wins on the season, still getting you a little bit farther ahead of the Devils, who have been struggling as of late. And of course, lost Jack Hughes, which is what you really hate to see. I mean, you never want to see really good players go down, but the Hurricanes are in a potential position to further themselves in the divisional standings. Of course, you really want to go for the 2 seed. I mean, you do need to win on the road as well in the playoffs. But if you set yourself for home ice advantage, that's never a bad thing as well, because at least they'll give you a chance to go maybe 2-0 in the series or even 1-1. But it gives you the chance to, that small advantage of, second change and stuff like that, getting the matchups you want. So for Carolina, right now going for the 2 seed would be great. I mean, obviously a lot of people would love to see them win the division as well. But as of right now, the goal is to go get that second spot in the Metro. And, getting a win over Tampa Bay would definitely put them in a good spot because then that gets them, like I said, farther ahead of the Devils, gives them more of a distance too on the wild card, since the fact that, the Columbus Blue Jackets got wild card 1 back. So in terms of goaltending overall, I think for what we're looking at, I would not be shocked if it's a Vasilevsky, Pierre Kachekov matchup, which has always been an entertaining one between the two Russian netminders, because you got Andrei Vasilevsky, multiple cup winner, guy who's always been solid every single season, always considered a top 3 goalie in the NHL, and then you got Pierre Kachekov, who's been on the rise as of late. Even the last season, did a lot of the heavy lifting. Did a lot of the heavy lifting this year as well, and someone who's definitely on the rise, really a fan favorite. And kind of, course, too, on social media, he's been doing a lot more as well, doing a lot more goaltender stuff, talk about, preparation, his gear and stuff like that. So you're kind of seeing more of Pierre Kachekov coming in out of his shell, showing more of his personality too. So I think you're seeing, Piotr kind of being more of himself and, showcasing like what he does to get himself ready, which is really cool to see, because I know a lot of fans want to see more behind the scenes stuff. So when you get a guy like Pierre Kachekov is kind of, now feeling more comfortable, speaking a lot more English and, showing his behind the scenes stuff of how he gets ready for games, what's his gear look like, what does he do overall for practice and stuff like that. It's really great to see. But if you get Vasi against Piotr, I think it's a very solid matchup for just fans of wanting to see some great hockey, especially when you get 2 really good netminders in different parts of their careers. But you definitely see where one is, cementing more of his Hall of Fame status, and one who's definitely on the rise to, being a bona fide number 1 in the NHL. Now, we talk about the net minors, we talk about the last 10 games. What are we looking forward to in terms of what's the tail of the tape? What are the keys to the game? Who are the players to watch? So stick around as we'll do that here in a second on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Looking to optimize your nutrition this year? Factor makes eating well easy with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are fresh, never frozen, and ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences, every week you can customize your meals to fit your lifestyle, whether it's calorie smart, protein plus, or keto. Plus, Factor even offers wholesome smoothies, breakfast, and grab-and-go snacks that keep you fueled all day long. The thing I really like about it is the fact that I love how Factor takes out the stress of meal planning, and I did the Protein Plus, and I've tried some of their healthier drinks and stuff like that. It's really good. I would definitely say that in terms of the quality, you definitely tell it's not, very much processed. It's definitely something where it's like you can throw in the microwave for a couple minutes, or if you want to even do it in the stove for about 12, 13 minutes, you're still setting yourself up there for some really good meals, and the portion sizes are absolutely amazing, where you don't feel you're hungry, but you feel full enough to where you don't feel like you overate. It's a perfect, meal to have either for lunch or dinner, or even their breakfast stuff too, if you want to get something like that. So eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/lockedon50 off and use code LOCKEDONNHL50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code LOCKEDONNHL50 off at factormeals.com/LOCKEDONNHL50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So back in segment 1, we talked about the goaltending matchup, the last 10 games, all that good stuff. But what are the keys to the game and who are the players to watch, along with what's the tail of the tape? What are we kind of looking at? And I know it's going to be cliche. I bring it up every time. But in terms of where you're looking at for this game, special teams is always going to be the number one factor. And the Hurricanes are definitely a team that's very well off as a 5-on-5 squad. But if you're looking at special teams, and especially how the fact that the Hurricanes had 6 power play opportunities against the Jets, they did get a power play goal. Well, they were 1 for 6, but their penalty kill was very solid. In terms of this, though, you're looking at the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are 6 on the power play at 26.1%, but the Hurricanes are second in the penalty kill at 84.1. And like I said, they went 3 for 3 against the Jets, on Sunday. So if you're looking at the opportunity of what is going to help the team overall, obviously you have to be really stacked up on the penalty kill to beat Tampa, which they've done really well overall across the season against other teams. Is just it's one of those things where you're going to really have to limit your penalties and making sure you're not giving Tampa the opportunity, because every time somehow Tampa gets a power play against the Hurricanes, it goes into the fact that they do get multiple ones, especially when you look back at opening night, and especially with Nikita Kucherov always finds a way to burn the Hurricanes on the power play. So this is definitely where you're going to have to keep your emotions in check and make sure you're not giving Tampa any opportunity to get the man advantage. Now on the flip side, Tampa Bay's penalty kill 81%, which is 10th in the NHL. So you're still talking about a top 10 penalty kill against the Hurricanes, who have second. But the Hurricanes are 25th on the power play, 18.7%. Yeah, they got one against Winnipeg Jets, but they have been pretty struggling for the most part, even kind of in December. But ever since January 1st, the power play has not been great. It's basically gone stone cold, and you're seeing some blips here and there of them getting better. But it's one of those things where I know they're trying to figure out something in different zone entries, different ways to set up. Yeah, they're doing a little bit more of puck movement now, but there's still a lot to be kind of figuring out of how to kind of garner that back into what it was before. I'm not saying we need to go back to top 5, but at least back to top half of the league. At least it'll be a start for the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, in terms of goals for and goals allowed, this is always an interesting topic of seeing who's scoring a lot, who's stopping the puck a lot more. Well, Tampa is the second highest scoring team in goals for per game at 3.54%, while the Hurricanes are 8th in goals allowed at 2.7. So you're not really giving up a lot of goals, but you're going up against one of the most potent offenses in the NHL. So it definitely be interesting to see how the defense plays a more structured type of style. I know Dmitry Orlov was back at practice on Monday. It's still not quite sure if he's back to 100% yet, so that's something to keep an eye on as we go into the game against Tampa. But are we looking at a possible Walker Morrow once again on the third D pair? That remains to be seen. But we just know Orlov is possibly a question mark, so we're gonna have to see. But overall, if the Hurricanes are top 10 in goals allowed, you like to see that for the fact that they're a really good 5-on-5 team overall, and they don't really give up a whole lot of goals. But like I said, you're going up against the second potent offense in the NHL. So this is where it turns into starting early like you did against the Winnipeg Jets, carry that 60 minutes of hockey that you saw against them, take it over Tampa, go for your fifth win. So it's basically, start early, get the crowd into it, and basically find a way to push yourself a little bit farther ahead. So that's where it's a 6-minute complete game of hockey and really stick to the 5-on-5, which means don't take a lot of penalties. And if you do get the advantage, make sure you take advantage of that. Now, for the Hurricanes, they're 11th in the NHL in goals for, 3.19, while Tampa is 6th in the league with a 2.67 goals allowed. So you're talking about a team who's also top 10 in goals allowed per game, but you are an offense that is 11th. So you are scoring a good amount. You're almost in the top 10. So it's just, like I said, 60 minutes of hockey, but really starting on time, getting the crowd into it. I think that's going to be a very huge key to the game of you get on Tampa early, you don't really give them opportunities to get their chances, and you shut them down. Like I said, then at least a really good 5-on-5 play, and then hopefully you find a way to stay out of the box. And if you do get the power play, make sure to take advantage of that as well. So it'll be interesting how that works out. Now, in terms of players to watch, it's really no shock when you talk about the Tampa Bay Lightning of who to watch out for. First one, obviously, Nikita Kucherov, 92 points in 60 games, 64 assists. He's a plus 15, 205 shots, playing 21 and a half minutes a night. That's why this guy's always in the Hart conversations, always in terms of the point total race as well, because the fact that he's, well over a point per game, and he's even missed time as well. He's played 3 games fewer than Hagel and Bjorkstrand and just all the other guys in general that have been on the Tampa Bay Lightning who've played it pretty much every game. The fact that he's played 3 less and still has 92 points is absolutely insane. So definitely one to keep an eye on. And I talk about Brandon Hagel. Who could have thought that you see Brandon Hagel at 70 points in 63 games this season, 30 goals and 40 assists, and he's a plus 27. He was a good Chicago Blackhawk, but for whatever reason, when he got to Tampa Bay, he was just getting better and better as every season goes along. And like I said, you're talking about a 70-point guy, plus 27, 184 shots. He's averaging over 21 minutes as well. John Cooper is not afraid to roll his big guys and roll with them a lot for the fact that you got Kachekov at 21 and a half minutes per game, and then Brandon Hagel at 21. And there you got 2 guys sitting at 92 and 70. Loan, which is just absolutely insane to think about. But then you got to look at the defense. Victor Hedman, once again, 60 games played, but he's got 50 points, 39 assists. He's a plus 14, averaging over 23 minutes a game, 104 blocks and 141 shots. Victor Hedman doing Victor Hedman-like things. I would not be surprised if he is a Hall of Famer as well when his career comes to an end. Honorable mention, though, you got to talk about Ryan McDonough. 20 points, over 20 and a half minutes a game, sitting at a plus 34, which is absolutely bonkers to think about. But, and obviously, too, Vasilevsky. Vasilevsky is Vasilevsky. That's no surprise at all. He's going to be a Hall of Famer as well, just for everything he's done for the Lightning. Now, looking at the Carolina Hurricanes, and for me, this is where it's like, all right, who do you look at in terms of who's doing what for the team? Well, you got to look at Seth Jarvis. Team leading 25 goals in 57 games. I definitely see him hitting the 30-goal mark. Definitely going to hit the 50-point mark this year. It's just, are we going to see another 60-point season? With 18 games left, it's definitely possible. It's definitely possible he might do it. At least he's definitely going to get 30 goals. He's definitely going to get 50 points. Does he get 60? I think it's very doable. He might get 60 points. It's just the fact you're talking about your 12 points in 18 games. I definitely see where Seth Jarvis could have, multi-point games and stuff like that where you kind of get it there. But overall, what a great season by him. Did miss 7 games due to re-aggravating his shoulder, but for the fact that he leads the team in goals with 25 in 57 games, you love to see it. +3, 150 shots, 80 hits, 42 blocks, your definition of a Rod Brind'Amour two-way 200-foot guy averaging 19.5 minutes per game. Now, you also got to look at Sebastian Aho, 61 points in 63 games, almost a point per game guy, averaging over 20 minutes, 167 shots. In terms of the defense, obviously Jacob Slavin, 23 points in 64 games, 111 blocks, 88 shots, over 21 minutes and 48 seconds. This is another game where you're going to be looking at Jacob Slavin to look and potentially stop Kucherov, also stopping Hagel and even Jake Gensel. So it'll be very interesting to see how that works out, but definitely keep your eye out on Jarvis, Aho, and Slavin to do some big things for Tampa. And of course, honorable mention, Pierre Kochetkov, because, it's Pierre Kochetkov. This is the game where he's definitely going to be ready and hopefully get a win against his fellow countrymen. Now, with all that being said, the Hurricanes had practice on Monday. Rod Brind'Amour did speak to media, so stick around as we'll listen to that here in a second on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crackin a good source of protein with wonderful pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you keep you feeling fuller longer. Get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. And like I said, Rod Brind'Amour met with the media on Monday post-practice and get his thoughts on everything that's been going on so far with the Hurricanes over the last few days. So without further ado, let's jump into that right now.
Can you give us an update on Svetch and what his situation is?
He wasn't feeling great today, so he's getting checked out right now.
Think he'll be back for the next game? Or
no idea. Until I hear something, I would have no idea.
Was that related to what he went the play at the end boards?
Don't know. He said he did something and then played a little bit after and it didn't feel right.
With these new guys here, do you feel like it's more important to kind of, usually you take off days kind of as the season kind of progresses down, but you feel it's more important to get practices in with these new guys to get them up to speed?
Well, it is important for that reason. But that's not why we practice today or anything. We're trying to figure out how many practices we're going to have moving forward, and it won't be that many. So, it's always important to get that in, but it's also doubly important for those guys because it's hard to get up to speed when you're not really getting involved and doing things.
What's Orlov's status? Obviously, he's practiced the last couple practices.
Yeah, I think we're just kind of waiting for him to feel 100%. So maybe tomorrow, but I don't think it's going to be too long.
Did you have a good feel what you were getting with Jankowski when he was?
Yeah, we've known the player for.
You played against him.
Yeah. We've seen him for a long time. I remember even when his draft year was coming up, everything. So everybody knows the player. You don't know him until you get him in your group, but certainly knew about him.
Sometimes when a guy's bounced around like that from a number of teams, they still have that urge to prove themselves.
Well, I think anytime you get a new start,
yeah,
that's like you want to, whatever kind of player you think you are, or you want to make sure you put that foot forward. And, obviously it helps when you get a couple goals, but that really, that's the bonus part of it. You're seeing I think a player who's a big guy that can skate and seems to know how to play. So that's what it looked like.
You talked a lot about guys having to find their role in the NHL, but he's scored a little bit. His shooting percentage is good throughout his career. Maybe is he one of those guys who maybe got a little pigeonholed into smaller roles that maybe he can make good?
Yeah, that's a question for him. I think you always have to look at opportunity for players. We all compare players and this and that, but okay, are you getting power play time? Are you getting this time, ice time? There's a whole bunch of things that go into what people think are, good players. And so sometimes guys just, you don't get that. Doesn't mean you're not a good player. But to your point, maybe that's what's happened. I don't know. That's a question for him.
You're on a 4-game winning streak. maybe didn't feel like that just because of all the noise that was going around and maybe, the uncertainty with everything. But did last night feel like your team was back a little bit?
Well, I thought other than one game in that stretch, I thought we played really well. So that was a good one. I mean, it was, you get ahead, you're scoring your chances. It's funny how it changes the whole perception of the game. And then the other games you play the exact same way and nothing goes in, and they get scoring their chances, and you feel terrible, right? If they had scored on their breakaway and did something else and we didn't capitalize, the game looks different, and then you're talking about it differently. That's why you have to sit back as coaching staff, and you have to always, are we doing the right things? Are we out-chancing the other team? Or whatever metric you want to use sometimes to judge your group versus the wins and losses.
But your reaction to the question initially, it seems like you're glad to be moved on.
Oh, on that perspective, for sure.
Yeah.
That's because you're talking about it every day, and to be honest, you didn't know. Like, I'm sitting here going, I don't really know what's going to happen, So it's a tough question to answer.
Is that the thing you like the most, certainty?
Yeah, I think everyone likes that, right? I mean, this business nothing's ever certain, but at least you know what your options are now moving forward.
Big thank you to Rod Brind'Amour and the Carolina Hurricanes for all of that. And it's interesting to see when you look at, and even here too, of like with the team, you don't really know what's going on with Andrei Svechnikov. He looked like he got hurt against the Winnipeg Jets, which somehow it's always Winnipeg that Svech gets hurt. He did finish the game, so they're kind of waiting to see what's going on with him. And we saw from the practice lines on Monday of where the team was overall, and kind of had to figure out what they're going to do without him in the lineup. So at practice, we saw the effect of it was Taylor Hall with Aho and Blake. Then it was Jost Kotkaniemi, Stankoven. Rest of the four lines were kind of the same. And then Orlov was kind of getting mixed in as well with the group, but it was Slavin Burns with Ghost Orlov kind of swapping him back and forth. And there was Chatfield, Walker, and Mora were together. Frederick Anderson did get the day off because he won the game against the Gents. So was Pierre Kachekov, and then, of course, George Alves kind of helping out with terms of that. With Svech, you heard from Rod, he's not 100% what's going on. They are still waiting to figure out what's going on with Andre. So I guess he's a game time decision unless there's an update. So hopefully Svech is okay. Hopefully he's not out for a good bit. I mean, like I said, he finished the game against the Jets, but now we're waiting to see what the extent is of, is this a short-term thing? Is it just the game, or will he be ready to go? And with Dmitry Orlov, he's still not 100% as well. Missed the game. He was a late scratch back a few games ago against Boston. Obviously, Riley Stillman gets hurt, so he played with 5 guys. Orlov didn't play against the Jets, so he's still not 100%. He maybe is good to go, but he's also maybe going to miss as well. So it's just going to be another Walker Morrow on the third D pair. So definitely question marks with a couple guys. Are we going to get Svechnikov back? Are we going to get Orlov back against Tampa? If not, maybe don't be surprised if you see Taylor Hall on the top line with Aho and Blake, and then you're looking at a Jost with Kotkaniemi and Stankoven, which isn't a bad, it's not a bad top 6. I know some people are going to be like, why don't you move Jarvis up? But, Seth Jarvis plays really well with the Jordans. That could be a situation where that's just what you're looking at. So it's the uncertainty of what the lines are going to look like, but the certainty that we kind of heard later on is the fact that, hey, you are winning, you're on a 4-game winning streak, you're feeling pretty good. You're kind of, getting a, certainty of like, hey, maybe the Hurricanes have finally found that groove and maybe this is the run they really need. I don't know if we're going to get an 8-game winning streak, but you get 4, you see how you do against Tampa, then you get ready for Detroit later in the week. So maybe you're looking at a good possible 5 or 6 game winning streak by the end of the week. But overall, right now, you're on a 4-game heater. You're playing very well. Seems like the team is clicking. Jankowski and Stankoven have been playing. They played really well in their first game. Let's see how they go because, practices are going to be very limited for the rest of the season, but definitely be interesting to see how the Hurricanes do moving forward. Speaking of moving forward, guys, will be the Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Thank you for making it your first listen of the day. For your second listen, why don't you go check out Locked On NHL Podcast, bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter with the local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL or on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to keep it with me, I'm at OneShoeZach on X. The podcast is LO_Hurricanes. I'm also on Blue Sky at DZachary where I do have link trees in both my bios where you can check out all my articles at thehockeywriters.com covering your Carolina Hurricanes. Also doing some AHL coverage at thecaldertimes.com. If you might want to look at my baseball coverage, well, it's coveringthecorner.com, covering and writing about the Cleveland Guardians. If you want to check out my other podcast, it is the Searchcast, which is a weekly show on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. For this show, well, it's Locked On Hurricanes on Spotify, Google, Apple, iHeartRadio. Leave a 5-star rating and review because I might just read it on the show. For YouTube, well, it's Locked On Hurricanes. Hit subscribe, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you don't miss a show. Leave a thumbs up to let me know if you like the show as well. Make sure to share all other Caniacs to become everydayers just like you. But hope everyone enjoyed the Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Enjoy your Tuesday, and also have fun watching your Carolina Hurricanes host the Tampa Bay Lightning. But until next time, as always, let's go Canes.